A major complaint about public transit in the West Kootenays is that the current systems are difficult to navigate. On this episode of The Lunch Counter, the new regional transit strategy is up for discussion.
Hello, I'm Sharman Thomas, Transit Supervisor, Trail and Castlegar Transit Systems. I'm extremely excited to see that the regionalization is going ahead with transit in our area.
I'm Ramona Fost. I'm the Regional District of Central Kootenay Director for Electoral Area E, and I'm also on the new Regional Transit Committee that's going to be taking a look at how to regionalize transit and condense some of those complicated fare structures and difficult connections, and I'm looking forward to it.
My name is John Mansbridge. I'm a citizen of Castlegar. I did a transit study in 2010 where we sent out survey forms to the citizens of Castlegar to try and assess what problems they were having getting to medical services, hospitals, doctors, and so on. I really believe we should get behind this regional and local transit system and fill up those buses.
Is the current transit system in your community user-friendly? Why or why not?
Well, I don't usually use the transit system here, although I have lots of students who do, and they find it very easy to use and they have no issues, and they're from all over the world, so it must be okay.
No, because as somebody who doesn't live in a major, one of the major cities, you pretty much you have very limited options when you can take the bus. You have to get this bus or no bus at all.
There could be more buses coming from the valley to Nelson. Sure. As far as the local transit in town here, I think that's pretty much feet, isn't it?
It's handy for us because the bus stop's right across from our house. So, like today, we dropped our motorhome off for storage and took the bus home.
We don't have any money except for what the taxpayers give us. So we're always mindful, because at tax time we get a lineup of people sitting across from us looking at our budget. We invited them to an open house to look at our budget. And when they see any giant jumps in anything, and transit included, they want to know what value they're getting for their money and how many people are riding. So a giant jump in taxation, because the regional district has no money except for what the taxpayers pay into it. So if we don't charge fares, then we would have to tax for the amount of fare loss for a year. And if people are patient and understanding and they value public transit enough, we can probably get away with that, but
So
it's more complex.
How much do you get from fares every year?
I don't have that information.
It's not very much. I did have that figure, but it's not very much.
Yeah.
You're probably talking $20,000, $30,000 a year. It's peanuts. You're not going to see these buses going down our street costing $400,000 and $600,000 a year to run them if they're not full. I mean, people are going to say, this is crazy.
Right.
We could have everybody buy everyone a compact car and tell them to go for it. We have to get people on those buses. I mean, they are getting on the buses in Nelson because there's a history of public transportation there. They always had streetcars. They've always had public transportation there. We've never had public transportation here. The biggest users of public transportation here are the foreign students.
In November of 2010, Castlegar went through some changes, and the system has expanded and ridership has increased. Yeah. The funds or the fares have also increased, or the revenue has increased slightly. The other thing that's happened is people are starting to get to know about transit, and the connections are starting to work better between Castlegar Trail and Nelson, and that ridership is starting to improve.
It is better.
What a lot of people don't realize, like for the Kootenay boundary, and this is where it's difficult, because I can tell you about two systems. I can't tell you about the other systems, but I can tell you that for Kootenay boundary, within the last 10 years, it was for municipalities under 50,000 was ranked the third highest ridership in Canada. And people don't know that. People don't know that because it wasn't advertised as much as it could have been. But so, the odd time you'll see the bus empty. Yeah. But you might have missed the peak time in the morning, the peak time in the middle of the day, and the peak time after, in the afternoon. So as soon as somebody sees the bus empty once, they say, oh, the buses are always empty. No, they're not.
Because it's so complex in the Kootenays, because the system was built by each individual community or regional district or part of a regional district, we have 10 different fare zones. And so it not only is the schedule complex and the connections important, but for a person to get on the bus and know what they're going to pay is almost unimaginable right now, because if you were getting on the bus in Balfour and coming over to Trail, you would go through 5 different fare zones. It is very, very complex. So the regionalization that Charmin was mentioning before is going to do a lot. There will be 3 different fares depending on the length of travel, pretty much. And that is going to make things much more simple because they are logical when you look at them. It makes sense. So I'm really looking forward to a lot of the work that this transit review in the Kootenay boundary is going to produce.
If we look at it regionally, when we do a change, as an example, we do a change to Trail where right now we've got 5 buses that come from Trail to Castlegar.
Yeah.
Only 4 connect with Nelson because there's only 4 buses going to Nelson or back. So there still needs to be one more connection. Looking at it regionally, we're going to look at things like ferries. We're going to look at what time major employers start and finish work. Maybe the employer has to change slightly, but if we don't look at it regionally, we can't fix it.
And I know, there's still areas that don't have bus service, and they may have the health bus, but they don't have any kind of regular weekly or service. And I think that's something that we need to attend to as well, because many times those are areas that have a large proportion of young families because the price of housing and rent is less expensive. And so Salmo, for example, doesn't have service. And what they would like to see is a bus that starts in Nelson and makes the loop to Salmo up to Castlegar, and then
Salmo has a limited health service.
That's right. Yeah. And then comes back to Nelson and does the loop all over again. So they really feel that would be advantageous, that the loop could go both ways and people could get to both Castlegar Trail and Nelson. And so they're hopeful for that. The other one is Caslow, of course. So these are areas that have a lower income level overall when you look at census, and probably could benefit from. You see a lot of hitchhikers, and so could probably benefit.
What improvements do you feel should be made to the transit system in the region, if any?
Rural transit, a lot more buses, more frequency.
If the population base were feasible, it would be nice if it came a little bit more frequently, but I realize that because there's not too many people in this area, that it's probably as often as can be affordable.
I think better signage of where the bus stops are when tourists come to town, of having a map of where the sort of destinations are that the buses go to.
The city, the people in the Kootenays, and the Kootenay boundary, have to buy into the transit system. Yes. They have to buy into it because, as you say, when push comes to shove, the transit system came and that was great, but it could vanish overnight if they don't get the funding, which means they don't get the support of the citizens. And so I'm just trying to make, rather than, BC transit system, I want to make it the Kootenay transit system. Yes. I want to make it a system which is to serve the Kootenays.
And that's what this regionalization is all about, John.
Yeah,
it is. It's going to help that.
Somehow I don't feel, and I don't know how other people feel, part of the transit system, because I've contacted you and I've contacted the people who make up the schedules umpteen numbers of times, and I've received No response.
But we have to appreciate that it's a very, it's a very large system, and it's a huge company that's involved, and it's a very slow moving process.
Oh,
but
God
it is. I mean, we have to. I mean, we can either do it right. We can do it right and spend some time and do the proper research, or we can just jump to it.
I'm sure the people there can do it. To say that this is a large system.
It is a very large system.
I lived in Cleveland. I've lived all over the places, and they operate systems. And I think you just have to get in there and do it.
And that's what's happening. And that's what's happening, John. Right now, up to this point, we had these individual. We had the Kootenay Boundary and Trail. We had Castlegar. We had Nelson, and everybody wants to hang on to their own little space. But now we're looking at it regionally, and we're going to expand that, and we're going to make a better system, a larger system, and hopefully
it's the
improve.
biggest problem in the world. I mean,
I think it's not. I think it's not proportionally. But if you have a municipality, they usually, like Cleveland, they usually decide to put transit in, and they are solely responsible for their planning and their routes. In this case, we have 3 different service providers that serve this part of the West Kootenays: Arrow Lakes, Nelson, and then your organization. That's right, the Trail Transit Service. So for you to say that those 3 should have all along collaborated, you're probably right, but they all started transit at a different time, and they started transit in different portions of their areas in different times.
And there's even more than that, because you've got the 2 regional districts, and each regional district is separated. It has something different where they're collecting the fares, but you also have all the municipalities that the regional districts are responsible to reporting to. Yeah. So you've got to talk to all those mayors, all those councils, the regional districts, the administrators, BC Transit, the operators. We just get told what they want us to do, and so we're going to do it. We're going to make the system work, but the future. I mean, I believe we're going in the right direction. I believe BC Transit has changed immensely in the last 3 years.
It has,
and they're going in the right direction. We just need to give it a little bit more time, because it's coming. It's going to be. We never had transportation between Trail and Nelson before. Now we've got 4 runs a day, and it costs you $4 to get from Trail to Nelson.
No, it is good.
I mean, it's excellent.